the most fearful prophecy in the book of Revelation. The world had not yet begun to wither. The first 4 trumpets had sounded, and the earth had been scorched and the seas turned to blood. But for those who had been sealed, there was still a fragile semblance of normalcy. The day was still light, even if a third of it was stolen. The water was still drinkable, even if a third was bitter. But then came the 5th trumpet, and the air itself began to scream. The sound was not like thunder or war, but a note so high and piercing that it seemed to vibrate the soul. From the sky fell a star, not a heavenly light, but a black smoldering cinder. It fell to the earth, not with a roar, but with an eerie silence, and landed not with an explosion, but with a crack. It was not a rock, but a being, an angel with a face of malice, clutching a key. The angel plunged the key into a fissure that appeared in the earth, and with a terrible scraping sound, turned it. The ground trembled, and a shaft opened into the very bowels of the planet, into the bottomless pit. From this abyss, a smoke billowed forth, thick and choking, like from a gigantic furnace. It was the smoke of torment, laden with the stench of sulfur and the grief of ages, and it rose to blot out the sun and poison the air. Then from the smoke came the sound, not the sound of an approaching storm, but the cacophony of an endless army of war chariots rushing into battle. As the smoke cleared, the monstrous horde became visible. They were not ordinary locusts, not creatures of nature. Their bodies were like armored horses, prepared for war. They had crowns of what looked like gold upon their heads, not symbols of righteousness, but of a counterfeit kingship. And most horrifying of all, their faces were like the faces of men, a mockery of humanity, twisted into a sneer of pure evil. The creatures were not motivated by simple instinctual hunger. Their actions were guided by a higher purpose, dictated by the will of the Most High. From the divine presence, a command was issued. This decree was not a mere suggestion, but an absolute order that redirected their inherent nature. Their instruction was precise. They were not to harm the grass, any green growth, or any tree. Their target was not the vegetation of the earth, but those who did not bear the seal of the Most High in their foreheads. Their hair was long and wild, like a woman's, yet their teeth were like the fangs of a lion, made for tearing and devouring. They were clad in breastplates of iron, an impenetrable shell that made them immune to the swords and arrows of humanity. But their true power, their ultimate terror, lay in their tails. They were like the tails of scorpions, tipped with stingers filled with a venom of unimaginable agony. A single sting would not kill. It was not death they were after, but a far more cruel fate. For 5 agonizing months, these demonic creatures were given the authority to torment those who did not bear the seal of the Most High. The torment was so severe, so all-consuming, that people would long for death. They would throw themselves from cliffs, leap into raging fires, and do everything in their power to escape the agonizing pain, but death would flee from them. They would be trapped in an endless, living nightmare, fully conscious of their suffering. The locusts did not act without purpose. They were a demonic army, and they had a king over them. His name in Hebrew was Abaddon, and in Greek, Apollyon, the destroyer. He was the angel of the bottomless pit, a force of pure destruction who commanded his grotesque horde to inflict suffering upon those who had rejected the commandments of the Most High. This was the prophecy, and it was fulfilled with a horrifying, dramatic precision. The world became a landscape of suffering, filled with the cries of the tormented and the thunderous roar of the destroyer's wings. This was the most fearful prophecy of Revelation, not because it promised death, but because it promised the absence of it.
Be sure to ring the bell to be notified of new uploads on this channel, and also comment, share, like, and subscribe.